government and the political gridlock that has crippled Toronto's City Hall. This plan would replace a broken system where housing, transit, infrastructure can't get built, a system that isn't working. With a more efficient council, a streamlined government that can take action and get to work on the issues that really matter to the people. Our plan would align Toronto's ward boundaries with what we see federally and provincially. As I've always said, we have 25 MPs, we have 25 MPPs, and it's working fine. It's absolutely working fine. It has been working fine for a while. Section 92, subsection 8 of the Constitution makes it clear the province has the exclusive responsibility over municipalities. And the City of Toronto is, in fact, a creation of the Ontario legislature. Virtually every single legal expert agreed that this law was completely constitutional and within the legal power of the province to enact. Experts, including those who do not support our government. The experts all agreed that this law was completely constitutional and acting decisively to fix Toronto's dysfunctional council has proven to be wildly popular among the people. In fact, the only people who are fighting this move are a small group of left-wing councillors, those looking to continue their free ride on the backs of the taxpayers of this great city, along with a network of activist groups they've entrenched themselves in the power under the status quo over the years. I have a great deal of respect for our judicial system, but lawmaking power is given by the people to Ontario's elected representatives. I believe the judge's decision is deeply concerning. I want to repeat that. I believe the judge's decision is deeply, deeply concerning, and the result is unacceptable to the people of Ontario. We are the ones who will ultimately have to face the people in an election, and it is the people who will be the ultimate judges of our performance. And we will live up to our responsibilities to protect the people. We have instructed our legal counsel to immediately commence appeal proceedings to the Ontario Court of Appeal. I have already called an emergency meeting of my cabinet to discuss this response, and I have notified the Lieutenant Governor our intention to bring back the legislature back this week. Our first order of business will be to reintroduce the Better Local Government Act, and with it, invoke Section 33 of the Constitution. My direction to our House Leader and Whip is to do what it takes to ensure that this law, which has already been passed once already, is reintroduced, voted on, and passed again on the quickest possible timetable. I also want to make it clear that we're prepared to use Section 33 again in the future. We're taking a stand. If you want to make new laws in Ontario or in Canada, you first must seek a mandate from the people, and you have to be elected. Because it is the people who will decide what is in their best interest for this great province. Thank you, and I'll take questions.
Take questions at the mic.
Premier, the notwithstanding clause has never been used in Ontario before. Don't you think that's a drastic, dramatic measure that is out of proportion with this situation?
Well, not at all, or I wouldn't be doing it. I think it's very, very clear. When constitutional experts some of the best in the country are saying this was a no-brainer. We're going to be focused on what we're elected to do, and that's reducing the size and cost of government. That's making sure that we fix the crippling infrastructure, the transit that no one's been able to build, and I've said this before, David Miller couldn't build it, Rob Ford could save $1.16 billion, but he couldn't get transit done. John Tory talks a big game, but he hasn't even been able to find the shovel to get transit going. Then we have a housing crisis that nothing is being done because of this dysfunctional council, and they wanted to increase it from 44 to 47. I can assure you, people in Toronto are frustrated with City Council here in Toronto, and people around Toronto, the GTA, that rely on transit to get to their jobs are frustrated. We're in gridlock in this city. And even furthermore, outside of this city, in the 905, there's absolute gridlock because nothing is getting done. We want a government that's going to be more efficient and make decisions. And we haven't seen any decisions over the last 4 years with this mayor. He talks a good game, says one thing behind closed doors, and then says something totally different in front of the cameras. That's concerning. We have to get the city moving, and hopefully, whoever the next mayor is, with 25 councillors, by the way, will start making decisions and start moving this city forward on transit, infrastructure, and housing.
But Premier, won't this just open the door to a slew of further legal challenges?
Well, again, we were democratically elected. Let me remind everyone, there was an election. We live in a democracy. We weren't appointed. We were elected by 2.3 million people. That's what democracy is. Democracy is you get elected by the people. You fulfill the mandate that you promised the people about making sure we run efficient government. That's why we're here. What is very concerning moving forward is if our decisions in changing the laws to make this province better, make it more efficient, to build transit, to build infrastructure, to build housing, is being shot down by the courts, that's scary. That's disturbing. That is disturbing to the public that elect democratically elected governments. Not appointing governments, electing governments. We live in a democracy, my friends. Do you know who the judge is going to be in 4 years? It's going to be the people. The people will decide if our government has kept their promises and we've done what we said we were going to do. Yes, Cynthia.
Mr. Premier, the judge gave you a royal smackdown, in Bill 5 a royal smackdown, saying it was unconstitutional, crossed the line. Your government, you are acting out of pique, and there's no evidence council is dysfunctional. Are you worried that, and yet you are choosing to ignore it, to squash his ruling, are you worried you're going to be described as a dictator? Are you acting like a dictator yourself?
Well, let me tell you something. I was elected. The judge was appointed. Was appointed by one person, Dalton McGuinty. I was elected by 2.3 million people. And let me be very clear. I respect the courts. I have the ultimate respect for courts, ultimate respect for judges, but it's very, very concerning when all the legal experts across the country, I never met one, even on your shows, on each and every one of your shows, are saying this is a no-brainer. Constitutional experts are saying this was a closed case. Matter of fact, I had people telling me that this should take 15 minutes to make a decision. Maybe you folks can ask the judge the reason he made this decision. I know why I made this decision, because we ran on making government more efficient. That's why I ran. I ran on making sure we had a proper regional transportation system. I ran on building infrastructure. I ran on making sure the housing crisis gets moved forward. That's what I ran on. And I was democratically elected to this position. The people will decide if they want the PC government in 4 years. That's my concern. My concern is democracy. Is democracy being held up here? That is a big, big concern here. Next question.
Hi, Premier. Your election in June was obviously freedom of expression for many Ontarians. The judge has said that Bill 5 violates that very freedom of expression for people in Toronto and those who are running for city council. So I'm asking, by you invoking the notwithstanding clause, are you denying people in Ontario their freedom of expression, specifically in Toronto?
You know, they have the freedom of expression all they want. Let's keep in mind again, my friends, we came out with this 90 days ago. Typical, not always, but typical federal and provincial election that I just came off of was 30 days. We gave the city 90 days. As a matter of fact, on September the 14th, do you know how ironic this is? On September the 14th, politicians have the right to pull their name out of the municipal election. Something's wrong. They're panicking about this. On the 14th of September, anyone can pull their name out. Number two, we sent provincial representatives over to the clerk's office, the City of Toronto. Yuli Wakas, I have a great deal of respect for Yuli, worked with her for 4 years. She was under pressure. We went over there and supported her. Everything's fine. We're ready to move forward. Is it undemocratic that people can just arbitrarily raise the number of councillors 44 to 47? I never heard anyone take that to court. You want to talk about undemocratic? That's undemocratic. At least I ran an election. And people knew what we were going to do. We're going to run the government more efficient to make sure we get transit going, infrastructure going, and we build housing. That's critical. Not to work around a dysfunctional government that gets nothing done day after day after day. People are frustrated in Toronto, and people on 905 are even more frustrated with what's going on in Toronto. But each and every one of you, I've heard personally each and every one of you say how dysfunctional council is. Matter of fact, the people that voted to move forward with this court challenge, I've heard them right out of their mouths, this is the most dysfunctional government in the country. And then they want to turn around. Make no mistake about it, my friends, politicians and special activists are protecting their own jobs. These councillors, they don't worry about you folks. They worry about themselves. That's what they worry about. I worry about the people. They worry about holding on to power. And the government can run a lot more efficiently with 25 elected councillors, just like we're running federally and provincially, than they can with 47.
And is this a threat to any group out there? You know, this government is going to do what it wants, how it wants, and if you want to take us to court, we're going to invoke the notwithstanding clause and have our way every single time.
No, I don't believe in threats. I believe in democratically elected governments moving forward on their mandate that was given to them. That's what I believe in. And I think everyone else in Ontario, agree or disagree with our party, believes the same thing. And I'm just trying to think of all the times that the people brought the last Liberal government, wasting billions and billions and billions of dollars of taxpayers' money. Were they held accountable? You know how they were held accountable? They were held accountable on election day. That's how they were held accountable. They sure the heck weren't held accountable by judges and courts and the court system. They were held accountable by the people the way it should be. That's the way democracy works.
Premier Ford, Travis Stanraj, Global News. You did not campaign on this specific issue, slashing council, and everyone knows that you have had, a little bit of a tumultuous relationship with some of the folks on City Council. How are you to convince the people of Ontario that this is not you playing out a personal grudge? Because you're consulting on a number of issues, not this one.
Well, Colin, let me be very clear. We ran on running and streamlining government right across the board. And Toronto's no different. And as for your comment about grudge, I have no grudge at all. Matter of fact, 18 councillors wanted to reduce the size and cost of government. But they were shot down by 4 additional councillors. So over 4 additional councillors, I don't think that was a clear decision. Now, if 90% of the councillors came out and voted? Well, again, that's their opinion. But let me remind everyone, municipalities are a creature of the province. They rely on the province to build transit, to build infrastructure, to make sure we had housing. We want to make sure we partner with a government that we can work with, not a dysfunctional government that we've seen over the years.
But isn't it hypocritical to say that you're going to consult on certain issues that are important to Ontarians and not others like this that are very important?
I've never said I'm going to consult on some and not others. That's your words, not mine.
To use the notwithstanding clause is quite extraordinary. Why does cutting the number of council wards in Toronto rise to the threshold where the notwithstanding clause needs to be used?
What's extraordinary is a democratically elected government trying to be shut down by the courts. That is what concerns me more than anything. We live in a democracy. We live in a democracy. That should be concerning to every single person in Ontario. It should be concerning to every person in Canada. I think Jason Kenney in Alberta had a few choice words about the decision made out in Alberta. But right now, our action's going to be very clear. We're moving forward. We're going to have 25 councillors running in the next municipal election. And I encourage the clerk's office to continue on with making sure she is ready for 25 councillors to run in the next election. There's nothing undemocratic about that. People are going to be able to vote. It's our responsibility, as it was a previous government when we merged the cities together. There was no court challenge there. I think it was at 56, then they went down to 44. Why all of a sudden? Is it the special interests that are worried? Is it the left-wing council that's worried? Because isn't it ironic? Majority of the councillors just so happen to be downtown NDP far-left councillors. It's not a coincidence. They're all about big government, spending taxpayers' money, not concerning themselves about saving taxpayers' money. They're just worried about a job. Do you know why? In my opinion, a lot of these councillors couldn't get a job if they weren't elected. A lot of these councillors down there been down there for 25, 30 years. That's unacceptable.
You mentioned earlier that you are leaving the door open to using the notwithstanding clause on some other legislation too. What are the parameters by which you'll set for the province to use the notwithstanding clause? When is it appropriate for the province to use it, and when is it not appropriate?
Let me be very clear. We will only move our mandate forward if it's within the Constitution. We vetted this upside down, sideways, backwards. Every constitutional expert in this country agreed with us. Even people that don't agree with our government agreed with us. And then all of a sudden, it's been overturned? Something's wrong here. And it's actually concerning, and the people should be concerned. When every constitutional expert, every lawyer that might have even disagreed with us, I have yet, in every single one of your newscasts, heard one lawyer come up and say, this might go the other way. It was to the contrary. So is it shocking to us? Is it shocking to every expert that I've talked to this morning? When they heard this decision, do you know how many people fell off their chair? They couldn't believe it. That's what's concerning to me. But that's the courts. And I respect the courts. And the courts use every tool in their toolbox to make this happen. Well, guess what? I'm going to use every tool at our disposal to make sure we hold up the Constitution and the democratic right of the people of Ontario. And I will not waver from representing the people. We ran our whole campaign on for the people, and the people elected a government, and that government is going to serve the people.
So, Premier, you're going to recall the legislature, I guess, I gather Wednesday, is that correct?
Yes, Wednesday.
So
will be.
on Wednesday, you'll have introduced debate on the notwithstanding clause, invoking the notwithstanding clause. Will this be a whipped vote? Will you be forcing, you have a majority, the Tories have a majority, but will you be forcing your MPPs to vote for this initiative, or is it a free vote?
It's a free vote. I don't believe, my friends, in whipping the vote. Our team is together on this. Our cabinet is 1,000% behind this decision. And we don't just go out there and put laws out there willy-nilly. We consult. We consult with our cabinet. We go back to the election of the promises that we made and what we were democratically elected on. And we're going to fulfill those promises to the people of Ontario, because they're the judge and jury. No one else. No one else is the judge and jury with the people of Ontario, except the people of Ontario. And when we cross that line, that's very concerning to me as the Premier.
And Premier, will you invoke the notwithstanding clause if you lose in court against the teachers on and the folks who are challenging the sex education decision? Will you invoke that as well in that case?
Well, I'm focused on this issue right now. Let's get through this issue, and then we'll deal with further issues coming our way.
But you did say that you would not be shy about using this very unusual measure again. So presumably
That's correct. I won't be shy, but not anything specific right now.
All right, last question.
Premier, in the court's ruling that came out this morning, he found that you have violated not one but two charter rights. Now, you're saying that democracy, that the ballot box gives you the right to do what you're doing today. Does democracy trump the Charter of Rights and Freedoms?
What democracy is when you have an election. That's what democracy is. We didn't trample on anyone's rights. And I'm kind of handcuffed to say anything else based on that. But I think people at home know exactly what I may be thinking and what our government is thinking. Democracy is when you can't say a word on any decision. That's not democracy. That's scary. That I'm sitting here handcuffed with a piece of tape over my mouth, watching what I say, that is actually scary. Democracy is going every 4 years to elect a government, no matter if it's federally or provincially or municipally, without worrying about your mandate being overturned. What is there, 10 lawsuits now? It's unheard of. And look where the 10 lawsuits are coming from. Special interest groups. Not the hard-working average person out there working on construction or working in a factory, trying to put money on the table to pay the bills, that have no voice. That's why we got elected, because we're voicing the opinion of the people. And that's why we were elected, and that's how we're going to govern. We have a mandate from the people, and we're going to move forward with the mandate and keep our promises. And the people, again, will be the judge and jury. But I can assure you one thing, we're going to fix the problem, we're going to build transit, we're going to build infrastructure, and we're going to fix the housing problem. That's what we're going to do as a government.
And are you warning the judiciary today to keep its hands off of your mandate?
I have the utmost respect for the courts. I've said that 4 times. I have the utmost respect for judges in this province. And I'm sure not all judges think the same, like not all politicians think the same. Not all lawyers think the same. That's what it comes down to. The judges, I'm sure there's a lot of judges that might disagree, but you have to respect the court's decision. I respect the judge, I respect the decision he made, but it doesn't mean I have to agree with it. It doesn't mean that since he's used every single tool in his toolbox and on his decision, making his comments about crickets and everything else, that's concerning. But in saying that, he's the judge. I'm the premier. He gets to use his tools. I'll use every single tool to stand up for the people of Ontario, stand up for the 2.3 million people that elected this government. That's what I'm going to stand up for.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.